Thursday, May 17th, 2018. We're looking at the lower level water vapor imagery for North America. Now, we have had a flood watch in effect. Well, it's been raining all week, and the forecast, it's been horrible here on the East Coast. Rain, rain, rain. I don't know how else to put it. And here we got some new storms blooming up in the center of the country as usual here, coming off of the Rockies. Alright, now the west coast here, there's a fella here that always covers this. Right here it is, One Pacific Redwood, and he explains it pretty good, and how there's always this drought and how they guide these storms around. The plains lay trails over incoming moisture fields, and then also you have ionosphere heaters creating high pressure zone, which helps guide these storms, pinch it off, and then all this water vapor pollution from the west coast and all that gets squeezed. And I kind of look at it like a hose, like when you squeeze a hose, the pressure when it comes out, it squeezes. It's fast. And what this does, like right here now, we got this low right over Nevada, right? And I wish I could go back further and tell you exactly where this water vapor came from. It probably got squeezed down from up north, and then you see this, because you have the jet stream, you have the polar jet and the equator jet, and then you have atmospheric rivers, right? And they can guide and manipulate these through ionosphere heaters such as HARP, NextRad, paved policy units, which is part of the space fence. They got these things on boats, barges, trucks, airplanes, you name it, satellites. And then up and down the Rockies here, you have ground-based cloud seeders, which are spraying silver iodide. And then, what else do we got moving further east? What do we got going on here? Well, this moisture field, when they squeeze and cut this off, like when you cut off rain for one spot, it's going to cause it to come down another spot. Or if you take rain, then you're going to cause drought in another area. And if you ask me, they've got all this shit on a computer. It's all ran on a computer. The airplanes are on a computer, which has been proved by a fella named Jim Lee in one video. He's talked to the head of FAA, and they've came out and said that they want to create clouds during the day, heat blocking clouds during the day, and no clouds at night. And I know that's bullshit because I watch this guy and I pay attention to all this. But we're over here at Jim Lee's site, climateviewer.com, and he's got this article here about 10 technologies to own the weather today. Okay? And you got ionosphere heaters, satellites, and sounding rockets. And he's got them all here put together because they are related, okay? They even announce when they set off sounding rockets, they're pretty proud of that. They're like, oh, this year, because they even announced it in our local newspaper and said, well, if you see some pretty colors in the sky, don't worry, it's just we're setting off sounding rockets at Wallops Air Force Base to, well, they claim it's to test the wind currents and all that. But really, what they're doing is they're spraying, right here, he's got barium, strontium, lithium, trimethylum, and sulfur hexafluoride, okay? And now they got to spray this stuff for the ionosphere heaters, like such as HARP, or the Arecibo Laboratory, or Observatory, my bad. And because they can shoot that microwave energy up, and then they have these metallic salts up there to that they're the medium, so to speak, and they shoot up the microwave energy, and then they can do what they want up there, you know. Because supposedly originally when they started out with these ionospheric heaters back after World War II was to communicate with submarines on the other side of the Earth, because they could shoot a signal up into the ionosphere. But since the ionosphere in its natural state is unpredictable, it would shoot that signal somewhere they didn't want it to go. So what did they have to do? They had to modify the ionosphere. So how do they do that? Well, first, and I don't want to steal, I want to give this guy, Jim Lee right here, credit for putting all this together. You may want to visit this other site, Weather Modification History, because that's where you put all this together, because you got to go back and see where this all started from. So what they had to do was modify the ionosphere. In order to do that, they had to put, well, first they started with atomic bombs, and they just wanted to blow up, get rid of the ionosphere and the Van Allen radiation belts, but, you know, laws came in place and they couldn't do that, so they had to find another way. So they started sending up sounding rockets and spraying chemicals into the ionosphere so that these heaters had a medium to interact with to modify the ionosphere, right? What else? I don't want to move on. Let's just look at the weather. So we got a head start here. So what we're seeing tonight here is, well, right up and down the center of the country, these huge storms blooming up. And it's like when they come off the Rockies here, and like I said, it's like squeezing a hose. Now, there's a bunch of geothermal plants here too as well, and I guess you'd call it the southwest, you know, off the Rockies here, and they can pump up water vapor, and that's another one. We'll go back over here, 210 Technologies, and you'll see right here, number 10, water vapor pollution. Now, there's 7,000 power plants across the United States, nearly I believe almost 70,000 worldwide. And if you get on Google Earth, you can find entire islands full of nothing but wet surface air coolers. There's no factory or plant or nothing. So when you sit there and look at it, there's only one thing that could be for, and that is to generate water vapor. Okay? We'll move on, keep going back, looking at the weather. Here is, so we can see how hot and high this is getting, how deep the water vapor is. Alright, keep moving on. Here's a visible feed. Look at that, all here in the desert. Like, you know, you'd think people would question this, like, where in the hell is all this water vapor coming from? I mean, sometimes it's in the middle of the dead of the night. Like, what causes evaporation? Well, it's the sun. But sometimes in the middle of the night, you'll see these big balloons of water vapor in the middle of the desert. In the middle of the night. Now, if you recall, back in the day, storms used to form out over large bodies of water, and they'd come into land, and then they would weaken once they hit land. But now we're seeing these almost daily, it's at least a weekly occurrence, massive storms just blooming up in the center of the country. And sometimes they'll even get a cyclonic type spin to them, a land clone basically. And it's not natural at all, right? And then you look here, here's the northeast. What are we seeing here? This is all, this is aerosols left by planes. Some people call them contrails, chemtrails, what else? Whatever name you want to fucking call it. It don't matter. What it is, it's pollution, and they're using this to modify the weather. And like, you go here to this guy, he's always talking about them spraying over top of incoming moisture fields. It's heading towards California to create decapping inversion, which prevents atmospheric lift, which is needed for precipitation. And they do this, and he calls it. He's dead on. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with everything he says. I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with everything he says. I'm not going to sit here and say, where's the other guy? Took some screenshots, Weather War 101. I'm not going to sit here and say that I agree with everything he says. But, you got to put all this shit together yourself. And just, because there's not a fucking book out that's going to sit here and tell you exactly what they're doing. Because first off, they don't want people to know. Because then you have liability issues. If somebody dies or somebody's property gets damaged, they don't want people to know that. Now, there's this other thing called disaster capitalism, right? Now, for instance, if you know where there's going to be drought, if you know where there's going to be flood and severe damage, you can get contracts to fix the place up. You can buy up stocks in certain food if you know there's going to be a coffee shortage or a orange, whatever kind of fruit or vegetable food. You don't want people to know that if you want to make money off of it. Now, they're kind of starting to come out and let people know that they're going to be geoengineering. Like this year, they're going to set off a balloon in the desert in Arizona to spray sulfur and simulate a volcanic eruption. Now, they're letting people know that, and they're going to supposedly do this once a year for here on out to save us from climate change. And I'm like, how people they're like, oh, I don't believe in chemtrails. I don't believe in weather modification, or that the government's controlling the weather, or I think it's more corporations controlling the weather. Like you have big oil, you have Monsanto, big food companies, and Monsanto, they would probably like to buy up a bunch of farmland. So if they want to buy this farmland, this guy doesn't agree. Well, perhaps maybe they could buy a cloud seeding operation and flood that motherfucker out, drop a tornado, and then this guy has nothing left, because I've seen it on the Weather Channel, a guy crying. Like, I worked my whole life for this farm, and I just got hit by back-to-back storms. So I'm going to have to sell my family farm in order for me to survive, or, move on. So there's so much to weather modification and geoengineering, and this is why people really need to wake up over this, okay? Because it can be taken advantage of, and it's not good. I really just don't know how to sum it all up in one. Agenda 2030, basically. You read up on that. Sustainable development. Anyways, we'll move on. We'll take a closer look. Here we have the Dakotas. And we're just cooking severe weather here. Severe. You can just see it cooking, bubbling up. Now, that to me is saying microwave energy. Okay? Get there in a second. Here. This is West Texas. There's, where's all this water vapor coming from? When you can zoom in, can I zoom in here? Let's see. You can damn near tell that this is, these are plasma clouds. But you can also see it being pumped up from the ground. this is pretty detailed. I like this. Look at this. That's cooking. These are plasma clouds. They're generated. More cooking. This is Nebraska. I guess it's Wyoming. Look at that. You can see the shock waves coming off that. Here's the entire Central Plains. And like right here, you can see all these that was left by planes. Oh, they're just contrails. When you sit there and watch these, if you do pay attention, you'll notice all the different things that comes out of the back of these planes and all the different things that they turn into. Like, you would think condensation would be pretty consistent, but it's not. Okay, now we'll take a look. There's your nightly ionization cycle. Take a look. Nice current. We can see these severe weather up the center through the center country here. In some of these lower levels, you can see the heterodyne roll pushing the opposite way of the storm. When you see these hooks like this right here, these bows, that's, you know, where possibly a tornado could develop. What else we got going on here? Now, the interference, that's another thing. Because all what you're seeing, this isn't always all NexRad. You get these dots and spikes. Some of this is aerosols being picked up, birds, bugs. Then you see like this here. You can see how it's jumping back and forth and twisting this storm up into a vortex. And this is probably from the transmitter. And you go from the end up. And it's coming from this transmitter right here. This NexRad right there. Okay, sometimes it's just like you'll see these random spikes. And it's just meaningless stuff, some of it. And when you watch this long enough, you can tell what's meaningless and what isn't. I don't want to spend too much time. I'm about ready to close it up. I'd like to keep these videos under 15 minutes, but it's hard to cover all this and try to, you know, because if somebody just watches this for the first time, they're not going to get it. All right. And I made a post earlier. We'll end there. It's just really hard to sit here. I don't want to sit and read to you. But this is stuff that you have to take multiple sources, put it together yourself, okay, to understand it all. I mean, it's just not, you're not going to watch a 5-minute video or and just understand it all. I've been studying this stuff for 3 years now, and I feel like I finally have got a good grip on it. And it's unsettling what's going on. And like I said here, there's the weathermodification.com or weathermodificationhistory.com, and you can start there at 1800 to present day, and you can see the line of events and kind of see where they're going, what they've done, etc., etc. You know. But anyways, that's my report. They're cooking tonight up in up the center of the country. There was a flood warning for my area, but I think that's about done with. And anyways, that's my report, and we'll check back in at a later date.